Hello, my friends. Today I want to talk about forgiveness. And in order to do that, I'm going to share a story with you. Now, I can tell you right now that this is not a story that makes me look good. This is not a story that brings me honor, but I think it's a story that's worth sharing. Now, I've mentioned before that I have a puppy. He's almost 5 months old now, which is crazy. I could swear that yesterday he was barely 10 weeks, but here we are. It was the day after Valentine's Day that I drove through a blizzard from Fairbanks to Anchorage. That's about a 7 hour drive. This is through the mountains, right past Denali National Park, if you know that one, and in the dead of winter. So when I say a blizzard, I'm not talking about a few flakes in a light breeze. I'm talking whiteout conditions, snow drifting over the roadway, avalanche warnings. We left home at 3 a.m. and didn't get back until I think it was about 7 at night. And this boy, he was the smallest little guy, 3.8 pounds, 8 weeks old and a shepherd mutt, so he was absolutely tiny, itty bitty, but he fell asleep in my lap and slept pretty much the whole way back. He got out to pee in the snow a few times, but other than that, he just slept in my arms. For about the first week, I slept on a blanket on the floor with him. That was how I raised dogs when I was a kid. Back then, my parents didn't allow dogs on the furniture, but I wanted to sleep next to my dogs, so I moved my bed onto the floor. Now, I wanted to make sure he didn't pee on my mattress. Blankets are a lot easier to wash. I say I slept on the floor with him. That's a lie. I didn't sleep, not a wink, because he was a teeny puppy and he had to go outside every hour. So I had to get up and take him outside every hour, and there was no sleep. After the first week, I managed to get myself onto the bed, which was at least more comfortable. I am no longer a child with child bones and child muscles, and I do appreciate having a bit more padding. He would cry if I wasn't right there with him, but I found that I could dangle my arm over the head of the bed into his containment zone, and he would go to sleep. Of course, I still had to get up every hour, which meant that I never got to sleep, but at least I could lay on the bed while I was up all night. It took a couple weeks before I actually got to sleep again. Even when he could go 2 hours between potty breaks, it still took us 15 minutes to get up and go out and come back, and then he took half an hour to settle down. Then I needed at least an hour to fall asleep, by which point it was time to get up again. They were very long days and very long nights. But he was the sweetest boy. Smart, too. He's a thinker, I can see it. Of course, he is still a puppy. He does what I call going full shark mode. No thoughts, only teeth. He does that less now, but when he was a teeny baby, oh boy, was he a shark. And those teeth! He got the deluxe extra sharp puppy package with those chompers. He's still teething now, and I cannot wait for the day that he doesn't feel the need to chew something at all times. He's pretty good about only chewing on his toys now, but he still wants very much to not really bite my hands, but to have my hands in his mouth, which is still full of those sharp little puppy teeth. And I don't know which teeth it is, but he's got a pair of scissors in there. He decapitates toys like nobody's business. Clean, too. None of this shredding and tearing. He sits down, calm as you like, and snip, 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 limbs come off. I think he's going to be a surgeon someday. I mentioned he's a shepherd mutt, right? All the shepherds Australian, Dutch, German, Belgian, all the shepherds. He's a Velcro dog, especially in those early days. He would cry like he was dying if I so much as set him down. Well, he'd cry and then he'd pee somewhere because he had a bladder the size of a thimble. So I carried him everywhere, in equal parts because I didn't want him to pee, because I didn't want him to cry, and because I didn't want to step on him. He was itty bitty. For 3 days, I ate only Valentine's Day cupcakes that Willow brought to work and muffins from the drive down to get him, because I couldn't set him down in the kitchen and I couldn't make anything else with just one hand. Showering was out of the question. Even going to the bathroom was a shared event. He wanted nothing more than to be in my arms or in my lap. But if he was in my lap, then he was in shark mode. So I tried to keep him in my arms so he'd go to sleep. Lord knows I couldn't. Now that he's a little older, he's better about being left alone. He still doesn't like it, but he will wait in my bedroom if I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And he can be outside for a while by himself without getting into trouble, mostly. And he's great about waiting in the car. When he was teeny tiny, I'd tuck my sweater into my snow pants and put him in there to ride around. He slept and stayed out of trouble that way. Plus, it was -40 out, so it seemed only fair. I was worried when he started to outgrow that sweater and it was time for him to ride shotgun. He was always so calm and peaceful in the car, tucked away like that, and I couldn't imagine that he'd be cool with sitting somewhere that wasn't on my lap. But he took it like a champ, just laid right down, went to sleep. I actually can't get him to try the window now because he just lays right down in the car and takes a nap. Which is great, don't get me wrong, but I've never had a dog that stuck his head out the window. My previous dogs didn't like car rides, and now this one is just too darn chill. So this is my boy. I will call him Timber because I almost did call him Timber. He's a good boy, a very good boy, but he's a puppy. And puppies can be mischievous, especially when he was younger, which is hard to say because he is still so young. In those long weeks of not sleeping, of constantly following him around to keep him out of trouble, of never being able to sit down for 2 seconds because he would get into something, it was rough. Having a puppy doesn't put the rest of the world on hold, you know? I still had human things to do, stuff like paying bills, answering emails, going to work, even though I do work from home. Simple things like feeding myself, or feeding the cat, or watering plants. These were not things that Timber allowed me to do. You must remember that before I had this puppy, I was an old man. I enjoyed my quiet mornings sitting with the cat. I whittled. I played the banjo. I painted. I took long walks through the frozen woods and cooked elaborate meals for myself that sometimes took hours. It was a quiet, peaceful life. And then Timber came, and everything changed. He was a swirling vortex of chaos and destruction, rampaging through my old man routines. And of course he was. He's a puppy. Look up puppy in the dictionary. Chaos and destruction is the definition. It's like having kids, but mercifully condensed. This is the part where I do not bring myself honor. I know that he is a puppy. I know that he's learning, that he's not trying to act out yet. But sometimes I lose my temper with him. I would never hit a dog, never ever. But there are times that I raise my voice. There are times that I correct him more sharply than perhaps is necessary. There are times that I do not conduct myself with honor. When he's in a mood, when he's actively looking for trouble, I can see it in his eyes, the need to destroy something. When it's been a long and frustrating day already, when he's not listening to me, when he just keeps disobeying, keeps breaking the rules that I know that he knows, keeps jumping on the cat, won't let me sit down for a single moment, there are times that I yell at him. When he is a swirling vortex of chaos, and when he says, "Actually, I have to go pee outside." And then I let him outside, and he starts barking at the neighbor dogs, or sitting and barking at the goats, or jumping on the cat, or tearing up the wool, and I tell him it's time to come inside, and he flat out ignores me, grabs his forbidden treasure, and runs away. There are times that I rage and seethe as I calmly and patiently follow him to leash him and bring him back inside. There are times that I pop that leash much harder than is strictly necessary when he makes another lunge for the cat. These things do not make me proud. These are brief moments after which I apologize to him and scold myself. These are not my moments of glory. The thing is, I know that he doesn't understand. He's not trying to be naughty most of the time. He is a literal child, and he's learning. He's learning what is allowed and what is expected of him. He's learning about the world and his place in it. He's not trying to be rebellious. He's just trying to figure out how to be independent, how to amuse himself, how to be his own dog. I know that. The other day, he was in a mood, losing a couple of teeth and taking it out on the rest of us. He was frustrated, and I was frustrated, and neither of us were helping the situation, and I was out of patience, so we took our evening walk early. I was angry, straight up. He was, it seemed to me, intentionally causing trouble just for the sake of it, and I wanted so badly to just shake him and tell him to knock it the hell off. But we went for a walk, and I was watching him chase the stream down the side of the road. It's breakup, and everything is melting and flooding, so there are surprise rivers showing up everywhere. And he was so excited, chasing the water down the gully. I watched him splash and frolic, and he looked back at me with such life and trust. He was having the time of his life, and he wanted me to be there with him for it. He wasn't thinking about what had happened before. He wasn't feeling guilty over some wrong that he had committed. He hadn't done wrong. He had been learning, and I saw it in his face that he wasn't trying to be an ass. He was just a kid, and he was learning. And what was I teaching him? Not that any of that behavior was wrong, only that I was scary and unpredictable. Not that he was misbehaving, but that I was unstable. Because he wasn't trying to act out. He was just a kid. Being a kid, he had no notion of the frustration that it caused to me. That was when I started thinking about forgiveness. Specifically, that I did not deserve it. He had already given it, had already forgiven me for everything, hadn't even considered it. It was just a given to him that I was his person, and no matter what I did, he would forgive me. It wasn't something he held on to. But I knew that I did not deserve forgiveness for my actions. I am a grown-ass man, and he is a literal child. I should be the one to emotionally regulate, and he should be the one to have a temper tantrum. There is no excuse for me getting angry with him over him being a puppy, over him being excited and exuberant, and of not always remembering the best way to show it. There is no excuse. But I wanted to ask him for it. I wanted to apologize and ask him to forgive me because I felt bad, because I acknowledged the error of my behavior, and that's what you do. You apologize and hope that you will be forgiven. But I knew that I did not deserve forgiveness, and that's when I started thinking about forgiving others. That there are some people who behave in ways that I don't feel deserve forgiveness. That there are some wrongs that I just cannot let go of. And I thought, how can I possibly ask this sweet little boy to forgive me for what is utterly unforgivable if I cannot forgive others for far more reasonable offenses? Before I can even ask such a thing of him, I have to find the heart to forgive even those who I feel have wronged me most egregiously. That's what I want to talk about today. I'm going to say some things here, and I want to say very clearly that I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad or feel guilty or feel ashamed. I'm not trying to put anyone on trial or make accusations. Again, this is between you and your gods, but I think we all have something to seek forgiveness for. And I would wager that if you are a human being and you have lived at all, you have probably acted unreasonably. You've probably done something or said something that you're not proud of, that does not bring you honor. Maybe your ex did you dirty and you did something or said something that you shouldn't have. Maybe a friend trusted you and you turned your back on them. Maybe you lost your temper with someone incapable of self-regulation. It doesn't matter who you're asking forgiveness from. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a God, maybe it's yourself. We all have something that we wish we could take back, that we wish we could erase, but that we know we cannot undo. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We are our own judges. I know my own excuses and I know my own truth. I know the lies I tell. I know there are things that I do not deserve forgiveness for, but I ask it anyway, because that is what you do. You apologize and you ask for forgiveness. How can we ask for something that we are unwilling to give? How can we expect someone else to move past our behavior if we are unable to move past another's? If I'm going to ask my puppy to forgive my most inexcusable behavior, then I must surely be able to forgive everyone else theirs. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you will come back again next week. Until then, I wish you wisdom in thought and strength in action. Be well, my friends.